Welcome to the dark side of BEASTwriter. I'm your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we're going to be discussing a lot of different things. First, let's go ahead and kick off. First of all, before we get started, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. If you have yet subscribed to my channel, because you guys follow me on Facebook, you guys all obviously are in some of my Facebook groups as well as Twitter and all these other social media platforms that we have to be on today. But if you're on YouTube, please do me a solid and subscribe in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. You see that red button. They'll be on the duration of all my live streams. Just go ahead and hit the subscribe button and make sure to turn on the bell notification so you get notified. So there's a lot of different things that have been going on over the course of the bye week. And it's no surprise that rumors have surfaced. If you guys haven't heard the news yet, ESPN Jeremy Fowler reported that the Raiders are indeed shopping strong safety Johnathan Abram and Ferrell. Now, is this a surprise to me? Absolutely not, for a number of different reasons, right? And we're going to go ahead and talk about that and exactly what that means for the team moving forward and why GM Dave Ziegler is trying to build this team the way he wants to build it. Because let's be honest, he wasn't the ones that drafted those guys, and he wants his own guys. We've seen it in the past, and we've seen by the moves that he was making this year before the season even started. And now we're kind of seeing how that trend is potentially could be playing out. Now, I will say this. I will say Johnathan Abram is playing at a really, really high level. You can credit Coach Graham for a lot of that success because he's putting him in the best position to make plays. The liability with Johnathan Abram, to no one's surprise, is his pass coverage. I have the numbers. I graded every single snap of him dating back to his rookie season. But to be fair, I think Johnathan Abram's having one hell of a season. And I think that shouldn't be taken lightly. Now, whether or not you want to trade a guy when his value is really high and the team's not doing so hot, I mean, that's something that remains to be seen, right? Because it's just like in the stock market, right? You want to buy low and sell high, right? You don't want to buy high and sell low. So at the end of the day, I can kind of see from a GM perspective, also from a player's perspective, and then everything in between, right? So you kind of have to bridge the gap and to formulate this analysis as to why a GM would want to make this move, and two, what is the instant gratification versus long-term gains that we always talk about? And so there's a lot of different dynamics and parameters that go into such discussion, right? You can't just simply say, oh, we should trade this guy for that guy, or we should trade this for that, right? You see all these things on Twitter. Like I just saw one on Twitter right before I hopped on as I was scrolling through my Twitter feed, and some Niner fan says, oh, let's trade Trey Lance for Brian Burns and Christian McCaffrey. Well, let's not get it twisted. Ain't no GM going to do that. So that's like fool's gold. No pun intended. That ain't a gold rush, right? So again, there's a silver lining to exactly what these moves are being made by GM Dave Ziegler. Again, I think he's a top 5 GM. I think he's going to be executive of the year at some point within the next 2 to 3 year time frame. I really, truly believe in what GM Dave Ziegler and the scouting department is really doing from the top down. And I also like this coaching staff, right? So again, all parties have to be on the same page, and they have to have a clear line of communications, because you guys are going to have these kind of internal discussions where you kind of struggle, like, hey man, I kind of like this player, and then maybe the GM is like, nah man, like our scouting department believes this player is a better player on our board, so this is what we're doing in XYZ round, right? And let's go ahead and talk about that. So again, the season has yet to play out, right? The Raiders are not mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. In fact, they can win their next 7 games, and then what, right? And then what happens? You're going to have to keep Johnathan Abram because he's your best bet. He's playing at a really high level. But again, it goes hand in hand. At what point do you have to forecast the future, because the trade deadline's 2 weeks out, and every GM has to go through this, right? We all saw what happened with Scott Fitter and the Carolina Panthers, right? How they traded and shipped off Robbie Anderson, who was given the Mike Singletary, Vernon Davis treatment. You know, you can't win with them. I'm joking, but that's what Mike Singletary said in his post-game presser when he threw Vernon Davis off the football field because he was basically throwing a tantrum off the field. And so, again, you're going to want players that you want. Robbie Anderson's a Temple guy, right? Matt Rule coached him at Temple. Same thing with PJ Walker, the third-string quarterback. He's from Temple. He's a Matt Rule guy. So, again, when you kind of figure out the dynamics of exactly of how this thing is all going to play out, we're going to go ahead and break it down. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, all right? So, again, we're going to talk about the trade, but let's go ahead and start off with today's pressers. If you guys don't know, offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi and offensive defensive coordinator, Coach Patrick Graham. Both coaches were on the podium today from Raiders headquarters, and we had the opportunity to meet with them and discuss exactly what's going through their thoughts as they prepare for the Houston Texans coming off a bye week. And so one of the questions that I like to ask is, with the game coming up, obviously we can talk about different things, but some things that I really want to cite on, because I'm getting a lot of negative feedback about Divine Diablo, and to be honest with you, I'm going to have Divine Diablo's back. And so, like, when I run these grades, as I have my own grading system, right? I have my own grading system. Oh, what's our grading system? You guys know how my grading system works. I grade every single snap, right? Not just on the Las Vegas Raiders, but every NFL team. And so, to help formulate my analysis, I don't have to do it, but I do it. And so, again, when I look at Divine Diablo in his last 2 games, he's done extremely well, right? First 3 games in pass coverage, not so hot. Last 2 games, he only gave up 20 passing yards in coverage total. So put your money where your mouth is. Divine Diablo's having one hell of a season, and he's really learning the position. You guys got to remember, he's going from a strong safety position to a second-level backer position, and that can kind of skew things. And I talked with Divine Diablo earlier in the year and gained his insight. Say, what's the transition like from playing on the back end, maybe in that eraser role as a last line of defense, as opposed to that second level? Because you're going to see a lot more action. It's like being a shortstop in baseball. You're going to see a lot more action than if you're on the outfield, right? So same thing applies. Same concepts and rules of engagement apply. And so he was talking to me about that. He's like, you know what? It's a blessing, because from a cover shell perspective on the back end, I can see different things. And so when you see things from maybe as a last line defense, you can kind of see the field better, right? And so I think that's what you're seeing now, is he's getting more familiar with not getting fuga'd. You guys know what I mean by fuga, F up the gray area, right? Because all these offensive coordinators like to use a lot of fuga, putting that curl flat defender to his decision, right? He might show something with that running back coming out of the flat, but yet you're supposed to defend the curl first before you defend the flat. So on that split end, if he's running right behind you, you're going to have to stay back and be mindful of dropping back in your depth and drop spot zone coverage, because if it's a cover 3 shell, obviously the rules of engagement apply. And so you guys got to make sure that, hey, look, yes, I have to defend the flat, but I have to also defend the curl first. Curl, then flat, right? You don't cover from short to deep. You cover from deep to short. And so that way you keep everything in front of you. So without further ado, here we go. And I talked about it with Coach Graham. Say, hey, what do you see from Divine Diablo? He's really shining. Does he remind you of any player in particular? Because obviously Coach Graham coached the Green Bay Packers. He coached the New England Patriots, coached the New York Giants. He had really good linebackers, right? Was there anyone that he kind of reminds you of? And he obviously, any coach is not going to say, oh yeah, he reminds me of this player, because then, like Coach Harbaugh always told me, whenever you compare a player to another player, you're diminishing the value of the player. So you never want to compare necessarily another player, but you can kind of gain insight in terms of skill set. And that's what I wanted. And that's what Coach Graham gave me. He's like, you know what? Divine Diablo can do X, Y, Z. He's fast. He's physical. He's playing his run fits very well. And he can do everything that you ask in pass coverage. So whether you're playing man coverage or a zone coverage assignment, he really does a good job at that. And again, when you run the grades, if you follow my live stream that I did when running all the defensive grades for the Raiders, yes, it took a lot of time, but it was well worth it. You will notice that Divine Diablo, although in my grading system has gave up the most touchdowns, all right, I'm just putting it at 100. I'm not saying Divine Diablo is a Pro Bowl player, all right, but he is getting better. He gave up 3 touchdowns, which leads the team, right? He allowed 3 touchdowns in coverage, 25. He was targeted 25 times, 19 of those going for completions. So you can kind of see 19 of 25. That's not a good sample size to pull from. But then again, you have to look at the down and distance, right? And it's like the DVOA, right? Defense adjusted value over average, right? So you can want to look at that, right? And okay, so exactly what does that mean? I'm not going to go into my algorithm on how I formulate that, but I have my own algorithm on that. And so when you do the math and you say, okay, well, you only give up 206 passing yards in coverage based on 19 completions, 7 of those going for first down. He's doing a really good job. And so, again, he only gave up 20 yards in the last 2 games. Give me that any day of the week. And furthermore, if you want to talk about run fit integrity, he's doing a really good job in run fits. In fact, he's second behind only Max Crosby, who passes the team in tackle wins versus the run. So you can't tell me that Divine Diablo is bad. I hate that narrative. It's a false narrative. It's a dummy narrative. And I will challenge anyone on that, because I grade the snap. People probably just look to the naked eye and be like, oh yeah, well, he did this wrong, he did that right. It's like, no, man, like, let's look at it from a grain of salt. If you're going to criticize or praise a player, as I always say, you better have the decency and the respect of the player to at least sit down like I am right now and grading every single snap. And yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes 3-4 hours just to do one side of the football, right? If you're doing all 22 players, including the bench players, you're looking at anywhere from 7 to 8 hours of game film studying. Take notes, Kyler Murray. I'm joking. But getting back to it, I am not joking about taking that time in order to grade the snap. You have to be able to do that. And again, I'm not right. I'm not saying my grading system is 100% accurate. It's not. No one's accurate, right? So, but at the end of the day, it's like I have a good understanding of exactly what the coaches are trying to preach and teach because I watch practice, and then you formulate that going into the game. And so that's what I see going into it. And obviously, there's obviously common sense things that you can see based on the techniques that the defensive line is playing. For instance, if they're putting a 3-tech, if you're playing on the strong side of the formation, there's a 3-tech, and then they're rolling coverage to one side. Obviously, they're probably going to box it back to the other side. They're not going to spill it to the strong side of the formation. They're just not going to do that. So again, there's obviously things that you can pick up. Again, when you grade all these other NFL teams, not just the Raiders, but this is what I see. This is what I see. And so Divine Diablo to me is playing at a really high level. Again, he's doing a really good job. And I have high hopes for Divine Diablo, the Virginia Tech Hokie. So again, I don't like the false narrative that I've been receiving from some of the fans saying, oh, Divine Diablo sucks. He's this, he's a liability in pass coverage, yada. It's like, nah, man, like maybe he was a liability the first 3 games, but the last 2 games he's been playing lights out. So challenge me on that. I'm more than happy to do that. And I will give you the numbers on that. So that's what I want. I just wanted to get that out of the way because I think that Divine Diablo is playing at a really, really high level. All right. The second thing that I want to point out is when we had Coach Lombardi come to the podium, right? And there's been some kind of dynamic in regards to Josh Jacobs. Is he going to return next year? Is he not going to return? Look, they declined his 5th-year option for a reason. I'm just going to say they declined it. That's not the Raider way, right? They can find running backs in the draft, which is why they drafted Zeus White in the 4th. But then again, what did I say before the season started? I said, watch, Josh Jacobs is potentially going to outplay his way in Las Vegas or play his way into Las Vegas because why? I say he's going to go for 1,700 scrimmage yards. Check the Aloha kickoff video. Set it. Looking good right now because he's 3rd in rushing for 490 rushing yards despite playing 1 less game than Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley. And he averages 98 yards per game. Only fumbled 1 time, which Coach Lombardi talked about, saying, hey, look, ball security is job security. BBB, body ball boundary, right? We all talk about fundamentals. And we talk about body ball boundary here in the live stream all the time because it comes down to fundamentals, right? And so, again, what is body ball boundary? Well, you want to have the ball on the outside shoulder based on where you are on the sideline because if you do fumble the ball, it's going to go out of bounds. Okay, that's body ball boundary, right? It's common sense. But getting back to it, he doesn't fumble. He only fumbled 1 time. And that's one of the things that Josh Jacobs' goals was heading into the season is cleaning up those fumbling problems. So maybe GM Dave Ziegler says, hey, look, let's not give this guy an extension. Let's not give him that 5th-year option yet. Let's see what he can do. And if he's picking up the coaching, then we can kind of renegotiate. Look, I'll be the first to tell you that Josh Jacobs is he's a top 5 back. He's a top 5, top 8 back. All right. So for anyone that says that he's not, come on, just look at the film and the film doesn't lie, right? He absorbs contact like a sponge. The guy can get valuable yardage after contact. The guy is just a beast in his own right. And again, like I said, 3rd in rushing, despite playing 1 game less than Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb. So you do the math. The guy is a beast. And let's not get it twisted. Life without Josh Jacobs next year is very scary. And I love Zeus White. Don't get it wrong. I love Zeus White. I think Zeus White's going to be one hell of a Pro Bowl player. Yes, I said Pro Bowl player. I think he has Pro Bowl potential. However, you're banking on a guy's future success instead of Josh Jacobs' instant success, which you're getting today, right? And Josh Jacobs is what? He's young, right? He's a 2019 first-round pick drafted number 24 overall. So if you're looking at it, roll tide roll, and you're saying, hey, look, how many running backs are like Josh Jacobs? I don't know. But then again, you look around the league, because I run grades, you look at a guy like Kenneth Walker, right, from the Seattle Seahawks. You look at guys like Breece Hall from the New York Jets. You can pick up these backs. And if Javonte Williams didn't get injured in the AFC West, look at him, right? You can pick up backs later in the rounds. Michael Carter, same thing with the New York Jets, who is now a backup to Breece Hall. So you have a stable of running backs there with the New York Jets. And I believe they drafted Michael Carter in the 4th round, if I'm not mistaken. And so you look at what these other teams are doing. You can find backs in later rounds. So that's not to say that, hey, look, you have to re-sign Josh Jacobs. But I'm saying life without Josh Jacobs is a very scary thought because Josh Jacobs is the real deal. That's all I'm saying. I want the team. If it was up to me, if I was GM Dave Ziegler, I would give Josh Jacobs an extension, but it's not up to me. And so like that's just my line of thinking. But at the end of the day, who knows? Who knows what can happen? A lot of stuff can happen. The trade deadline is coming up, right? So we're going to go ahead and talk about that. But I just wanted to bring home that pressers so you guys have an idea of exactly what's going on. So let's go ahead and talk about the pressers, right? We wrapped up the pressers. Let's go ahead and talk about GM Dave Ziegler and what he's trying to do. Look, I talked about this in the 2023, 2024 drafts, how he's building the team through the draft. That's what good GMs do. You don't want to go out and pay, okay, GM less need, I get it, and be one and done, right? Being very top heavy. I mean, that is kind of the blueprint. You see the Buffalo Bills doing it, who they may go after Christian McCaffrey. I wouldn't doubt it. Or a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who just cleared up XYZ amount of cap space because Travis Kelce turned his, what was it? His bonus or his base salary into the form of a signing bonus spread over the life of the contract, of the remaining years left on the contract. That's how you can kind of leverage the cap and gain extra stats. Maybe they're making a play because, Christian McCaffrey had a small 2022 number cap hit, right? And so next year is a different story. I think it's at, I don't know, anywhere from 11 to 13 million. But this year, you can fit them under. And if you're all in it to win it this year, I can see the Kansas City Chiefs making a play because they just lost to the Buffalo Bills. And so if you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who, by the way, you don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Yes, you have Juju Smith-Schuster, but he's okay. I mean, he's good, but he's not like great, right? And so, yeah, you have Mecole Hardman, but, speedy guy. But, I mean, they're going to need some weapons outside of Travis Kelce. Why not get a guy like Christian McCaffrey who can be your extra security blanket coming out of the flats? I don't know. And duel up as a running back because, obviously, he's a running back first before he is a receiver threat second. So, there's a lot of things going on, but I can kind of ding, 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 ding. I can kind of paint the picture of how I see this thing playing out. But getting back to it, right? You see GM Dave Ziegler. What does he do, right? What does he do extremely well? He's doing all these things extremely well. And so that's what I'm talking about is he's a wheeler and dealer. My guy, Daniel Kim, says, salute, Beast, finally able to catch you live. Been watching the run backs. Thank you so much. Just like a run back like Josh Jacobs going for a 20-yard gain, breaking tacklers, making missed tackles, forcing missed tackles, let's say, and making tacklers miss. He's doing a really, really good job there. I like Josh. I'm just saying, I like Josh Jacobs. And interviewing him, very professional, and you guys got to give it up to him, right? Remember, he was sick and didn't even take the flight. And then he had to go the next day to take the team flight and then played. Like, that shows heart, man. Like, I don't know, like, however sick, he must have been really, really sick, man. And I know people are sick. I know for a fact that running back room got hit with the injury bug, or the sickness bug, I should say, because Britton Brown was a little bit sick. He got sick a little bit. So I know it's kind of going, or was going, I should say. It was going around, obviously coming off a bye list 2 weeks ago. But, everybody was dealing with something, right? Whether it be injuries or illness or sickness or whatever the case may be. And I'm just good. It's just good sign to see that Josh Jacobs is, hey, look, I don't care. You just like Nate Hobbs. I don't care if I have a broken hand. I'm playing. So again, that's kind of like the cultural identity that you want to see from the Raider Nation. And I think everybody can gravitate toward that. But thank you, Daniel Kim. I appreciate it. Talks with Rye says, what's up, Rye? Personally doubt we trade anyone. We just got to stay healthy. Look, let's look at what GM Dave Ziegler does, and he does it extremely well. He likes to build through the draft. And again, if I was in GM Dave Ziegler's shoes, I would do exactly the same thing. Look, he struck 8 trades since becoming the team's GM. 8 trades, all right? First one was what? Let's go down the timeline. I'm going to do this off the top of my head, so if you're going to call me out, but whatever. The first trade, I believe he traded, freaking name, I'm drawing. Okay, he got Rock Ya-Sin, right? He struck a deal with GM Chris Ballard, again, another top 5 GM in my grading system, and in return, traded away Yannick Ngakoue. Why? Because they're transitioning from the 4-3 to a 3-4, or vice versa. He didn't fit Coach Graham's system, whatever the case may be. All right, pick your poison. Then he doubled down on those gains and said, okay, I got Rock Ya-Sin. He's playing at a Pro Bowl level in BEASTwriter's grading system, which he is. And I tweeted this out on Twitter. And they went ahead and got Devontae Adams, gave up a first and a second in 2022 NFL draft, who ended up being Quay Walker. And I forgot who the second round pick. Off the top of my head, I forgot who they got in the second round, but I wrote an article on it. Anyways, they got Devontae Adams. Sweet deal. That's 2 for 2, if you ask me. And then what did they do? What does GM Dave Ziegler do after this? This is the one that kind of got people wild up, right? Oh man, you're trading Bryan Edwards. Oh my gosh, how can you trade Bryan Edwards? Like, Bryan Edwards was clutch. He helped us win games. And I said, look, Bryan Edwards is good, but you don't need a receiver to run 7, 8, 9 biggers. You can find that in the draft. You can find that anywhere. I'm not saying Bryan Edwards isn't good, but let's not get it twisted. You get a 5th round pick for Bryan Edwards while only giving up a 7th in return. I'm doing that in that 2-for-1 deal or 1-for-2 deal any day of the week. And so they yield a 2023 5th round pick. So now they have 2 5th round picks, right? So keep tallies, guys. Keep tallies. I like keeping track. This is what I do to run grades, right? And so then what do? Then they say, oh, we need a backup quarterback. We need a backup quarterback. Let's go out and get Jarrett Stidham from the New England Patriots because he fits the system. And in return, all we have to do is give up a 6th round pick. Let's do it. Sure. And in return, we'll get a 7th round pick. So we get a 2-for-1 deal instead of a 1-for-2 deal with Bryan Edwards deal. And then we still have the draft capital that we need while still yielding a backup quarterback. Holla at your boy, GM Dave Ziegler. Again, getting it done. Let's just do the math, guys. Like, look at the analytics of exactly what he's trying to do. Tennessee Titans, this is the big one. Remember during training camp, Tyree Gillespie, 4th round pick, 2021 4th round pick. Now I can get rid of him. Boom. Get rid of him to the Tennessee Titans, right? And in return, what did they get? A conditional 2024 7th round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just do the math on that and look it up. I think it was 2024 7th round pick, conditional. I don't know how I remember this stuff, but hopefully I got this one right. Yeah, 2024 7th round pick. All right, same thing with Nick Mullins. Traded him to the Minnesota Vikings. I remember this because I covered Nick Mullins with the San Francisco 49ers. Traded him for a 2023 7th round pick. All right, so they're getting late round picks. And what are you doing with these late round picks? These late round picks, people, they're just late round picks. No, let me tell you something about late round picks. If you draft a guy in the late 6th, 7th round, some of those guys are guys that every team wants because they want them on their practice squad. They want them on as part of their 90-man roster going in. So that's when you see all these GMs fielding calls. Hey, look, we want you to come with us, join our camp. We think you're a good fit. We would have drafted, but whatever the case may be, blah, 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 blah. Look, GM Dave Ziegler doesn't have to do that. He's formulating his draft board how he sees fit and can pick up these guys in the 6th and 7th round because he has ammo to do it. With his guys that he wants. He ain't draft Tyree Gillespie. He ain't draft Johnathan Abram. He ain't draft Josh Jacobs. He ain't draft Ferrell. But he will be drafting the guys that he wants moving forward. So I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying Johnathan Abram should be traded or whatever the case may be. I'm just looking at it from a GM perspective and GM Dave Ziegler's perspective and exactly why the report is out that ESPN Jeremy Fowler put out that, look, they are shopping Johnathan Abram. They are shopping Ferrell. But keep in mind, they are not shopping Josh Jacobs. Interesting, right? How can you do that? You cannot shop Josh Jacobs. Because why? If you remove Josh Jacobs from that offense, you're basically calling it quits. You're basically waving the white flag saying the season is over. It ain't over. It ain't over. All right. And then you double down on that and you look at what they did with Trayvon Mullen, right? Traded him to the Arizona Cardinals and again got a late round pick in return. I believe it's a 7th round pick as well in the 2023 7th round draft, right? So 7th round pick in the 2023 draft. So again, I can see it happening. I can see Johnathan Abram getting shipped out. Do I want it to happen? It doesn't matter what I want. Doesn't matter what I want, right? But because Johnathan Abram's playing at a Pro Bowl level in my grading system. He's playing at a really high level. Yes, he does. How do I say this? He does struggle a little bit in pass coverage, but at the end of the day, he's playing extremely well in my grading system, still grading at a Pro Bowl level. He does lead the team with 5 missed tackles versus the run. I talked about this on my live streams earlier. But at the end of the day, what you're seeing from him is you're seeing a guy who really is coming into his own, right? He's really coming into his own. What's up, G says, question for everyone. Do you still believe the Raiders will make the playoffs? This is a great question. We're just talking about this. Look, let me just start with my answer. Yes, they will make the playoffs. I'm joking, not joking. I'm joking. No, they potentially can make the playoffs. It's hard, right? If you do the analytics or run the analytics, it's very difficult for them to make the playoffs. But I'm not going to doubt them and say they can't. I'm not going to doubt Coach McDaniels. I'm not going to doubt Coach GM Dave Ziegler. Everyone's writing them off already. I'm not one to do it. What happened when they were 0-3? I said what? I said they're going to beat the Denver Broncos, guaranteed. And that's a homer take. I'm not a homer type of dude. Trust me. Anybody who knows me, come not trust me on this. I do keep it 100. So when I do have a conviction about something, I will put my beast receipts on the line. That one checked out. Now we're rolling into the Houston Texans. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs game, I thought they were going to lose that game in a close one. I thought they would lose by 3 points. But at the end of the day, you know, they're a team that's fighting. They're a team that's really on the rise, I think. They could easily be 5-0 instead of 1-4, right? But again, as Bill Parcells says, your record is who you are, right? You are what your record says you are. And right now they're 1-4. Right now they're 1-4. All right. Jeff, a KC fan, says, send Chiefs Josh Jacobs. You know what? That's never going to happen because they play in the AFC West. But I will say this. You guys might get Christian McCaffrey because you guys just cleared up cap space thanks to Travis Kelce. And let's be honest, there's a few others who might be clearing up cap space just in order to fit Christian McCaffrey in Andy Reid's system, Eric Bieniemy's system. That's one hell of a lineup. If you get Christian McCaffrey teaming up with that offensive line with Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, OBJ, I'm not talking about Odell Beckham Jr. when Marcus Spears from ESPN says, oh, I think they're clearing cap space for OBJ. Nah, man, I think they're clearing cap space for a guy by the name of CMC, Christian McCaffrey. That's what I think. Now, watch me be wrong. But that's what I see. I see them clearing up cap space because they're looking at the Buffalo Bills game and like, you know what? It's going to come down to the wire. We need to win some of the time of possession. We need to score more points on the board. Devin Singletary isn't really hurting us, but he's not really helping us. Zach Moss is Zach Moss. We need somebody who can actually get it done and be that third down back who can kind of push the ball downfield or help push the ball downfield, force missed tacklers and on the second level, clear out space for the underneath guys, right? They like to do a lot of those Y stick concept. Travis Kelce talked about it in my Chiefs Raiders pregame. So again, what are you trying to do? You're trying to build the team from the way that you see fit. And I think GM Brett Veach, who is another top 5 GM, is doing one hell of a job in doing that. Look, they got Frank Clark. They got George Karlaftis, who they drafted out of Purdue, right? They bring in guys. They let Jaron Reed, who's now off to the Green Bay Packers, right? You let Tyrann Mathieu go to the New Orleans Saints. You still have Juan Thornhill back there. So there's guys back there. You let Charvarius Ward go to the San Francisco 49ers. You still have L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, come on, let's talk. If you want to talk football, let's talk football. We could talk football all day. We could talk football all day. We could talk football all day. And so, like, that's what I'm saying is like when you really do the numbers and you look at everything, that's what I see. All right. Holly says, everyone hit the like button and follow BEASTwriter on all social media. Thank you so much, Holly. Holly is one of my moderators, just like What's Up G is. And I thank you guys for moderating the channel as we do this live stream. Two Red Flags says, do you see Josh Jacobs as having durability issues? How much does that factor into your player assessment? Look, the best ability is durability, right? If you're not durable and you play like 75% of the games, I'm going to look at that, especially from a financial perspective and say, okay, cool story, bro. You're good, but how healthy are you? Just like the dynamic that Saquon Barkley has, right? He's a top 5 back when healthy, but is he healthy? Same thing with Christian McCaffrey. Any GM that takes on Christian McCaffrey knows that you're going in running the risk of injury because these guys are smaller guys, not Saquon Barkley, of course, but I'm talking about Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs are smaller guys. That's the reason why Nakobe Dean, what I'm hearing around the league, Nakobe Dean's my guy. Again, I already went on record in saying this. If he was playing, he would be defensive player of the year. Defensive rookie of the year, excuse me. I like Nakobe Dean. I think Nakobe Dean's a beast, but at the end of the day, people are saying, why did he fall? Why did he fall? Why did he fall? And from the peeps that I was talking to around the league and their peeps, they were telling me, Beast, I know you like him, but he's small and small guys get hurt. So I'm small, not really. I'm short, but I ain't small. So there's a difference between the two. And if you were to say that Saquon Barkley is small, you'd be doing yourself a disservice because if you see the guy in person, he's built like a house. And so I think there's a difference between a guy who's short as opposed to a guy who's small. A guy who's small is a guy who's like 6 foot, 183 pounds, has no muscle to his frame. That's a guy that's small. Yeah, he may be 6 foot, but he's 183 pounds. He has little to no muscle mass. He's probably an ectomorph, right? So again, this is what I'm seeing, all right? And again, you look at the numbers that Josh Jacobs brings to the table. Josh Jacobs is a beast. I would resign Josh Jacobs, running the risk of, hey, look, he might get injured. He might only play in 75 to 80% of the ball games. But at the end of the day, you know what you're getting with a healthy Josh Jacobs. And so you're banking on that because if you're playing, it's like in a game of football. If you're playing not to lose instead of playing to win, you're always going to be behind the 8 ball. You're always going to be behind the 8 ball because you're scared. You're playing scared. You can't play timid. You play to win the game. as Herm Edwards would say. Hello. And so I like Josh Jacobs. I think they should resign him. But again, I would wait until the season's over because there's no use in rushing him. I don't think they'd sign him mid-season anyways. That's just not the Raider way. I don't think they re-sign guys to an extension during the season. I know GM Kevin Colbert doesn't do that, or former GM Kevin Colbert for the Pittsburgh Steelers doesn't do that. No, Omar Khan. So again, there's a lot of different things that we can talk about, but I love Josh Jacobs. My guy, Dennis, says, salute Beast, popped in to say what's up. I'm slammed at work right now. I have to watch the show later. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. And dropping your comment. It means a lot. Look, V says, love Josh Jacobs. Seems like he's decided to control what he can control instead of being a distraction. We talked about this in training camp. My guy, Vinny Bonsignore, you guys know him from Las Vegas Review Journal, Vegas Nation reporter, asked the question, hey, Josh, I was there. I recorded it. He said, hey, how do you basically play knowing that you're not going to get extended? Or I shouldn't say you're not going to get extended, but that you're not giving your fifth-year option, right? You're not giving your fifth-year option. You're basically in the contract year. He's like, look, to your point, I can only control what I can control. The rest will take care of itself. And you know what? That's how you have to go into it, because in life, whether it be a contract situation or anything that's out of your control, there's no use worrying over something that you cannot control. You can't control someone else's feelings. You can't control how they do business. You can't control what their mindset is, what their ideology is, what their draft approach is, how they view you, right? Let's face it. Cam Akers from the LA Rams is in the doghouse. Let's face it. Another running back that is in the doghouse that's in the AFC West named Melvin Gordon. We all saw what happened when he was on the sidelines, and we're like, dang, man, why is that dude on the sideline with Javonte Williams out? He should be the focal point of the freaking offense, right? Melvin Gordon, former first-round pick, drafted by the San Diego Chargers at the time, drafted number 15 overall in that trade for Eric Armstead, who went from 15 to 17, right? And they drafted Blake Bell as part of that deal, along with Ronald Blair. You guys know what I'm talking about, that 2015 draft. How do I remember this? I don't know. Holla at your boy. But that's what they did. Melvin Gordon was a beast. I'm not saying he's a beast now, because obviously, he's a little bit older, a lot of more tread on his tires. But at the end of the day, Melvin Gordon can still play. And so I thought that was very interesting when Coach Hackett decided not to run with him. Now, there could be something internally. I don't know. I'm not covering the team, so I don't know. I'm just looking at it from an outsider's perspective and from a fantasy football perspective. Why didn't you play Melvin Gordon? Oh, man. My fantasy football team sucks. Phil Romero, the last three players we let go aren't playing. That's very true. LV Maximus says, M. Ziegler, I trust. Egalitarian says, what's up, Ryan? What's going on? Giovanni Perez says, since you covered both Niners and now Raiders, who, in your opinion, is a better quarterback, Jimmy G or Derek Carr? I get this one all the time in the DMs. A lot of you guys don't want to say this publicly over Twitter or other social media, but I get this question at least once or twice a day in my DMs. My DMs are so lit. Like, there's so many people like, how come you didn't respond to me? Look, I rarely look at my DMs because I rather just look at it publicly and then respond that way. So thank you for doing that. And there's just so many people. I was going to get to this later on in this live stream anyways. I will say I like both of them. I do. I like Jimmy Garoppolo and I like Derek Carr. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. And people are saying, well, Jimmy Garoppolo, he can't win the big one. He can't do this. He's a game manager. Look, so was Alex Smith. He was a game manager too, and he won, right? Jim Harbaugh got the best out of him, and he was a game manager. So it's not like he's a Trent Dilfer, all right, where you have to game manage. Like, the guy cannot score a touchdown, right, with the Baltimore Ravens. You guys remember Trent Dilfer? Remember when they had Jamal Lewis and they had who was on that defense? Jamie Sharper. They had Ray Lewis. They had Ed Reed, of course. I mean, that was once that Haloti Nada, I believe, was like Tony Saragusa, right? They had all these guys on the defense on front seven. Who else did they have on that team? Gosh, they had some players on that team. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, we can't score points. I don't know. I like them both. I'm not going to say one is the better than the other because I did teeter-totter with this a lot. I think both have their pros and cons. I think Derek Carr maybe forces the ball downfield a little bit more than he should, whereas Jimmy Garoppolo does not. But at the same time, Derek Carr can actually throw the ball downfield and be accurate, throwing to the receiver in stride at times, right? As opposed to Jimmy Garoppolo not being able to do it altogether, which is why you have to scheme things up for him. And that's why it's easier for defenses to kind of pick them apart. So good and bad. right? Good and bad. I'm lucky I'm not the coach where I have to make this decision if I had both on the roster, because if they were both on the roster, I think you can go into every single week saying, hey, look, this is what this guy does well. This is what this guy does well. This is what that defense doesn't do well. They play a cover 3 shell more times than not. And the best player at reading XYZ coverage, when does a cover 3 shell, is this player. So let's roll with this player. It's not like you have a dual threat quarterback like a Trey Lance playing behind, or a Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith dynamic, or a Steve Young, Joe Montana dynamic, where it's like, okay, like, yeah, we can go into it with a dual threat quarterback as opposed to a pure pocket passer in this week as opposed to next week. So I don't know. I like them both. I'm not going to say one is better than the other, but I will say that in my short time covering Derek Carr and I covered Jimmy Garoppolo, both guys have been truly extremely fun and professional. Like, both those guys are really, really professional in all aspects. And if you're looking for a team leader who does things the right way, both on and off the football field, I would give it up to both Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo. So from that perspective, from a media perspective, I will say that. Egalitarian 207, but I do like, for the record, I do like Derek Carr. I'm a huge Derek Carr fan, and I'm a huge Jimmy Garoppolo fan. Egalitarian 207 says Daisy Leaders should target Shaq Thompson and CJ Henderson. Carolina Panther guys, huh? CJ Henderson, wasn't he drafted by originally the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? Coming out of Florida. And then Shaq Thompson, wasn't he a Pac-12 guy from Washington? Not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. But no, I don't think any one of those guys would be a good fit. And here's why. I like Rocky Yassin. He's playing at a Pro Bowl level in my grading system. And I like Nate Hobbs, and I like Amik Robertson. I think they have a trio of cornerbacks that they can win with. My opinion. You guys tend to forget they also have Anthony Averett coming back from injury. So he's a guy who people are sleeping on because he hasn't been playing. And so I think he was playing well up until his injury. So again, you look at guys like these and you say, hey, look, from a GM perspective, do we really need to go out and get a guy like CJ Henderson? Kick the tires on a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm doing this off the top of my head, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, whatever. I believe he was on the Falcons, Jaguars, Panthers, or am I thinking of Vernon Hargreaves? No, I think it is CJ Henderson. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, Vernon Hargreaves, I remember, got a pick 6 off of Jimmy Garoppolo back in 2019. I think so. I think I put that up on my YouTube live stream, broke down that play, and people wanted to break down Jimmy Garoppolo's every interception. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Takes a hell of a time to do it, but whatever, I'll do it. Because the editing and all that takes forever. Egalitarian says Las Vegas Raiders will make the playoffs. I like that. Warriors ring night, SVT Vasquez. Yeah, go Dubs. Holla at your boy. All right. Kevin Lurker, my man, says, good evening, nation. Look, there's been people who are commenting, leaving comments on Twitter, also leaving comments on social media, especially on Facebook groups, as to how you guys can donate to the channel because you guys can't catch it live stream. And if you don't, that's fine. There is a heart icon that you guys can send a special super thanks, and you guys can send your donations that way. Or if you're watching this live stream, there's a money icon. And again, all proceeds get funneled back into the Dark Side of BEASTwriter family. So if you subscribe to the channel, you're part of the family. We run giveaways, so we do a lot of giveaways for all you guys. So again, this is just a fun thing for us to keep up with the channel, keep up with the content, and keep up with the things that you guys love. And then also what I'm going to do, what I started to do, actually, I should say this, is all the money I get, I put it in like a savings account from YouTube. And then I want to go on some of these road trips, and I can definitely do that if I have enough funds. And right now, again, I'm a one-man show. I am independent. I don't have an editor. I am the editor. I don't have a sound check guy. I am the sound check guy. I don't have a lighting guy. I am the lighting guy. I don't have a live streaming guy. I'm the live streaming guy. I don't have a content creator. I am the content creator. I don't have a pulse reporter. I am the pulse reporter, as well as the analytics guy, as well as the game film breakdown guy. So you do that all together, and then obviously I get my 4-hour workout in at the end of the day. And you tell me, is there enough hours in the day to do that? Barely, but there is. So again, if you guys like the content, like the channel, like these live streams that I'm doing, send me those super chats if you have the funds. If not, just give it a thumbs up. That's going to show YouTube that, this content is of value. So again, if you guys can't donate, just give it a thumbs up. 16 of you guys are watching right now on the StreamYard service. So go ahead and give it a thumbs up here on YouTube as well, and Facebook and Twitter and all these other social media outlets. So give it a thumbs up, drop your comments, and again, we'll go ahead and talk about everything you need to know. Ferrell says Rod Woodson was on that team. Oh yeah, that's right. Rod Woodson was on that team. Good knowledge. Rod Woodson was on that team. You are absolutely right. That is one hell of a defense. Ed Reed and Rod Woodson. Are you kidding me? I don't know. Castro Raider says, "Isn't CJ Henderson a running back?" No, I think you're thinking of Cordero Patterson maybe for the Atlanta Falcons, but no, CJ Henderson is not a running back. He is a cornerback, right? You might be thinking of Darrell Henderson. I don't know. There's a lot of Hendersons. What do you think about the pass offense? Do you think they keep trending upward? I think it all depends on the offensive line. Everything starts up front. Teams are built from the inside out, not the outside in. Dylan Parham's doing a really good job up front. Alex Bars is doing a really good job up front. The whole line is doing a very good job cohesively up front. I thought there was a lot of positives from the Kansas City Chiefs game, who have a strong defensive front seven under Coach Spags. I thought that they did a very good job in holding the point of attack. I liked how the running backs did a really good job in pass protection as well. Earlier in the year, Josh Jacobs gave up a sack or two. In pass pro, you really see him getting those things cleaned up on third downs and being that real plug in the middle, buying and giving Derek Carr. They needed time to go ahead and go through those progressions. So I think it all starts up front. It all depends on the offensive line, the continuity of that offensive line, and when and how successful Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, Mac Hollins, Hunter Renfrow, how successful those guys are moving forward. Castro Ritter says, "I think we found our starting five for this year. Now they just need to get to team chemistry." Yes, absolutely. I agree with you 110% on the team chemistry part. I think that it's important. I talked about this on my live stream. Let me just get some coffee here, because I'm running out of voice. Does that make sense? I'm running out of voice. Anyways, I think they found their starting five. Now, it's funny. I was looking at the depth chart today, right? So we got it from the Raiders PR. They gave us the depth chart going into the Houston Texans game. And Jermaine Illuminor is the starting right tackle. On the depth chart, they have John Simpson as a starting left guard. All right, so you're kind of looking at him like, whoa, what's going on here? But let me just break it down for you. I'm not joking. I literally took a screenshot of it. And let me just read it off to you. All right, the starting offensive line as of October 18th, 2022, Colton Miller, left tackle. John Simpson, left guard. Andre James, center. No surprise there. Lester Cotton, roll tide roll, right guard. Jermaine Illuminor, right tackle. Alex Bars and Dylan Parham are running with the twos as of October 18th, 2022. Now, this could be one of those things where it's a Bill Belichick move where they just say some guys are starting over others, or it could be the truth. I don't know. I think it's just all smoke and mirrors. There's no way you can sit Dylan Parham, who's one of the best run blocking guards in the league, even for a rookie, doing a really good job. That's just my opinion. I like Dylan Parham a lot. Liked him coming out of Memphis. Thought this guy was going to be a stud, and he is. And he's very smart. And he has somewhat of a nasty mean streak. I talked about it earlier on my live stream back on October 13th, where I talked about Dylan Parham. And the question was, do you think he has a nasty mean streak? I was like, yeah, man, he does. Maybe off the field, he's a gentle giant. On the field, he is just a different guy. It's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Come at me twice, and you're going to get a different beast coming at you in more ways than one. I think that Dylan Parham is one guy you do not want to mess with in an alley. He's a phone booth mauler type of a guy. He's a very smart guy, and he's a very nasty guy when he gets on the football field. Castro Raider says, in your opinion, what position do we prioritize in the draft first? That's a great question. Again, it depends on what the other 31 other NFL teams are doing, especially within the division with the AFC West, how that shapes up. I need to see the draft order. I also need to see how the free agent acquisitions and also the free agent losses come into play, because obviously you have a scheduled free agents, but there's always those surprise cuts based on the salary cap, right? So you look at the dead money tied to those contracts, you kind of project the top 3 cap casualties for each NFL team, which I always do in the offseason. And so then you run the numbers that way. And so when you look at some of these cap casualties who are maybe not scheduled to be unrestricted free agents, but could be back on the market, that's where you can kind of find value, right? Because maybe this team couldn't afford that guy. They still wanted to keep him, but yet they're looking at their draft board and say, hey, we have the ammo based on our draft board and how we see the draft playing out. We think these 3-4 cluster of players may be available at the time we are on the clock. And in that case, be well versed to go ahead and let go of this 3 to 4 year veteran who's still on a rookie deal, but may not be or give us enough potential in that risk reward game that we could otherwise get in the XYZ cluster of players in the upcoming draft. So again, there's a lot of different dynamics that go into it. But then again, this is how a GM tends to think. How do I know this? Because I have friends who were former GMs and they teach me the name of the game. And they're very good executives of the years, to be exact. Kevin Lurker says Parham has a brain. He does. He's very smart. He's very smart. V says, looks to me like they're starting to settle. This bye week was a blessing as they get to go hard on self-evaluation at a time they need it. Yeah. Phil Romero says, I love to see a D tackle or cornerback in the draft. Look, if you're going to go cornerback, there's a lot of different guys that you can pull from, right? And again, you can find guys like Tariq Woolen. Look at Tariq Woolen, right? Tariq Woolen was the guy that the Raiders really wanted. Trust me, they liked him. He's now with the Seattle Seahawks in the cover 3 scheme. A big, tall, lanky guy, has the speed. This guy, even for a rookie, is playing at a really, really high level, which is why Sidney Jones is on the outside looking in. He might be shipped off. I just see there's a scenario. Boom. Get one player, let go of another, right? Same thing applies. So, again, you look at guys around the league. You look at cornerbacks around the league. You know, last year it was Pat Surtain. I say he's going to be a Pro Bowl player. Gave the Denver Broncos an A grade in my post-draft analysis, right? Because they got Javonte Williams, Quinn Miners. They got, obviously, Pat Surtain. Who else they got? They got the linebacker. Was it Browning? Nick Bonito. Didn't they get Nick Bonito? I think they got him. Anyways, it's all in there. And, yeah, I ran draft grades on all 32 NFL teams, especially in the AFC. So, again, I thought Alex Leatherwood was a reach. Said he was a reach. I said he was a bad pick. Thought he was better suited for guard. I said this all in real time. And now look at him. He's off to the Chicago Bears. Ryan Pace decided to take a flyer on him because he's like, you know what? I was a former offensive lineman. I was a practice squad player one time. Sorry, not Ryan Pace. Ryan Poles. Ryan Pace is out. Ryan Poles. Or Ryan Sakamoto. No, I'm joking. A lot of Ryans that we can talk about. But anyways, speaking of Ryans, I really like Rob Ryan. I really like Rob Ryan. Thinks he's going to be a... I don't know. I like Rob Ryan. I like Coach Graham. Look at that defensive side of the football is going to be the coaching style is like so good. Castro already says I wanted Quinn Miners. Hey, Quinn Miners, he's that one guy that you're looking at and look at the team. Oh man, this guy's going to be good. You have to project now, but this guy's going to be good. I like Quinn Miners. I like Creed Humphrey. Thought he was a steal. I thought the Eagles did a really good job. Who'd they get? Landon Dickerson, Devontae Smith. Roll Tide Roll. And then they also, dude, Howie Roseman has done one hell of a job in the draft. Look, you look at the SEC guys that he got. Jordan Davis. Oh, let's just double down on that and get Nakobe Dean. Get the 2 top players on that Georgia Bulldog defense that just killed everyone. Then you might as well go after and try to get Quay Walker while you're at it too. Or Trayvon Walker. Just go up to number 1 and get Trayvon Walker too. Oh, forget that. Let's get Darian Kendrick, who's on the LA Rams. Let's try to get that guy too. Darian Kendrick, speaking of the doghouse, was in the Dabo Sweeney doghouse, or as Dabo Sweeney would call the Love Shack. I don't care what you call it. Cam Akers is in the doghouse. You can call it the Love Shack. You can call it whatever. Look, he's not playing. They call it personal reasons. It is definitely personal. Is he hurt? I don't know. But he is possibly going to get shipped out. That's just my gut feeling. No reports on it. No one has said that. But I think that Cam Akers is going to get shipped out because he's too talented not to. And maybe, you know, you have to talk. You have to look into it now. Be like, okay, man, Cam Akers coming out of Florida State. He was a good player. Projected 2nd round pick. What's wrong with him? Then you have to go back and talk to the Florida State. Is there something wrong with this guy? Is he coachable? Is his work ethic there? Why is Sean McVay not playing Cam Akers? That's the number one question. Why? What's the why behind the reasoning, right? Why isn't Cam Akers? Is it because he's not good? Is it because he's not talented? Is it because he's not coachable? What is it? Like, what is it that makes Cam Akers unplayable? Is that even a word, unplayable? I don't know. Castro says, how do our safeties grade so far this season? I ran grades on the entire defense. I did that in my last live stream. So after this one concludes, go back and check those out. But Johnathan Abram playing at a 7.4 out of a 10, which is an all-pro level. Yes, I said all pro, not even a Pro Bowl level. Johnathan Abram playing at an all pro level. Yes, he is a liability in pass coverage. Gave up a lot of yards. Oh, he didn't give up a lot of yards. I believe he only gave up 124 passing yards overall on 22 targets, 15 of those going for completions, with a 90+ quarterback passer rating. How do I know this? Because I ran the grades on it. But if you want the exact numbers, that's in my last live stream. So go ahead and check that out. Trayvon Merrick, although small sample size, he was banged up. He's playing pretty damn well too. So Duron Harmon playing extremely high level. I like Duron Harmon. Too many people, oh man, this guy gives up. Nah, man, Duron Harmon is freaking good, man. They need Duron Harmon back there. There's a reason why they brought him in, and I can see why. Duron Harmon is nice. He's nice. He's a nice player. I like him. Now he's not going to be that flashy type of a strong safety or a free safety. He's not going to go be like a seeking heat missile coming down in the blocks. You know what I mean? He's not going to light anyone up like that. But I mean, like, you can light some people up. We saw the Arizona Cardinals game. That was as he told me, that was a lick. It was a big lick. He just laid a big lick. If you guys haven't catch that video, it's on my YouTube live stream. No, it's not. No, I did do a YouTube live stream, but I also talked about it on my player interviews. That's one thing you guys like. If you guys are new, again, and want to subscribe to the channel, you guys can do so in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and just go ahead and click the subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications, and that way you get notified when we go live or when we upload content, as I will tomorrow and every day throughout the week. So you stay on top of, again, my perspective, the BEASTwriter perspective, the dark side of BEASTwriter perspective, exactly the angle that I'm trying to, or I shouldn't say angle, the insight that I'm trying to provide you guys, as well as you guys. You guys have questions. I try to get those questions answered for you guys. So again, it's a privilege, not a right, to be there. And so I always been one to do this. Like, if you have questions and it's obviously a good, I shouldn't say a good question, but a question that's appropriate. I mean, some people ask, can you do this? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, what are you talking about, dude? But anyways, if you guys have a question like, hey, can you ask coach on, how the offensive line is shaping up, right? Like, what is his thoughts on? Sure. That's a good question, right? Like, I want to know. I would want to know that. How is Dylan Parham doing for a rookie through the first 5 games of the year? And what's your gauge on the assessment level when you talk about a rookie's first 5 games as opposed to maybe a veteran in his second or third year? And where does the valuation process fall into play when comparing a rookie to a 2 to 3 year veteran, right? We can ask questions like these. So again, it's one of those things where you guys have a lot of questions. I hope I answer a lot of your guys' questions beforehand. But again, obviously there's so many questions and everybody has so many different perspectives, which is nice here on the YouTube live stream. Phil Murray says, guys, make sure to hit the like button. Yeah, definitely hit the like button. That does me a solid. And again, if you guys want to donate, you guys can do so with a super chat or a super sticker. Really means a lot. But either way doesn't really matter to me. Just go ahead and hit that like button. That's all I ask, and it's free. So it doesn't cost a thing. You guys are watching this, might as well hit the like button. So again, more people like you, it will be pushed to, and then it will show up in those people's feeds. Well, hey, look, X amount of people like this video. So maybe it will be a recommended video because there's other people on this platform who are like you, who are part of the Raider Nation, who may like this video. Odds are they probably will. Two Red Rings says, do we know if we are trying to trade for other players or draft picks? Look, if I had to take a guess, and I haven't heard anything officially, but if I had to take a guess, the BEASTwriter perspective, I think GM Dave Ziegler will indeed trade at least one of those 2 players, whether it be Ferrell or Johnathan Abram. Now, do I want those guys to be traded? That's up for debate because I'm not going to go ahead and debate that. To say I want a player traded, that's like totally like dumb. I want this guy to be traded. I'm not going to say that. But I will say that I do think that there's certain people in here that want those guys traded. Now, whether or not those guys will get traded, I don't know. But Jeremy Fowler from ESPN reported it, and I can definitely see it happening. So again, we have to really make sure and be mindful of those things that are going into it and saying, hey, look, if we do go ahead, and I say we, but if the Raiders go ahead and trade a guy like Johnathan Abram, what is the asking price, right? Like, what is the asking price if you go ahead and trade a guy like Johnathan Abram? Well, let's go ahead and look at the numbers, right? So if you were to go ahead and do that, right? If you were to go ahead and trade a guy like Johnathan Abram, I already ran the numbers. I did the numbers. I looked at the salary cap, and this is what I see happening based on GM's tendencies, right? So again, I talked about Johnathan Abram playing at a Pro Bowl level, all pro level in my grading system up to this point through the first 5 games. Now he is giving up a 97.5 passer rating, but at the end of the day, he only gave up 124 yards and he was targeted 22 times, 15 of those going for completions, right? So he gave up 1 touchdown in coverage. So you look at that and be like, oh man, this guy's not bad. He's not the greatest. He's not going to be like a Derwin James, right? Type of a strong safety. He's not going to be like a Budda Baker type of a strong safety. He's not going to be one of those guys, right? But he is getting it done. He's not going to be like a Jordan Poyer, right? You don't expect him to, right? That his game is a definitely cover 3 scheme where he's down inside the box, like a Seattle Seahawks type of guy, like a Jamal Adams, right? That's where you see Johnathan Abram. So again, you look at the teams that could use a strong safety, like GM Nick Caserio, the Houston Texans GM, and you're saying, hey, look, maybe they can go ahead and talk about him because let's face it, Johnathan Abram would be a nice fit with GM Nick Caserio's Lovie Smith's defense. Because Lovie Smith likes to run that 4-3 defense, right? He talks about it and putting his players in best position to make plays. If you're doing that, Johnathan Abram will definitely be down inside the box. And if you look at who they have right now, can you name the starting strong safety for the Houston Texans? No, it's not rookie Jalen Petrie. He's a free safety, but it's by the name of Jonathan Owens. Who exactly? All right. So when you do the math, maybe this weekend, GM Dave Ziegler was talking to his buddy Nick Caserio, who they worked with the New England Patriots. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Are you guys looking for a strong safety? I don't know. What do you got for me? You never know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it could happen. And so again, when you look at what Lovie Smith tries to do, right? You look at what the Houston Texans try to do. What do they try to do? Putting their players in the best position to make plays. Look, the pass rush is a 4-3 defense. Who they have? Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, Jonathan Greenard. Those guys do what? Rush the passer because that's what they do well. Lovie Smith is known to freaking focus on the player's strengths. He's not going to ask them to do something they can't. For instance, would you ask Bilal Nichols to rush the passer? No, because he's a 2-down run stuffer. So instead of focusing and dedicating half the time on trying to rush the passer, he's going to be like, no, you know what? In practice, Monday through Friday, well, you have walkthroughs in between and you have game film and whatever. Anyways, throughout the work week, you're going to just be focusing on what you do best, which is rushing the passer. If you're an edge rusher and that's what you do best, if your get off is strong and you can get to the passer, that's all I'm going to ask you to do. I'm not going to have you do something that you cannot do. Plain and simple. Castor says, hey, BC, you should ask how they plan on to keep on using Munford. I really like Munford to start by week 10 through the year. He has shown a lot of potential. I like Thayer Munford. Talked to him, interviewed him. If you guys haven't caught that interview that I had with Thayer Munford early on in the year on the self-assessment, you guys can check that out after this live stream concludes. I like Thayer Munford too. I think he should be the starting right tackle moving forward. Unfortunately, I talked about this with my guy Sanji on his live stream last week. We cover everything. But it's just like echoing. It's like boom, boom, boom. Just like Coach Graham says. He says, man, you're like boom, boom, boom with their questions. Like, yeah, man, because it's like I have so many things to say. And it's all in line. It's like, I'm getting straight to the point. Bam, bam, bam. Same thing with Thayer Munford. I think he should be starting. I talked with Sanjit, but again, if you're looking from a GM perspective, yes, you want the draft pick to start over a guy that you didn't really bring in, like Jermaine and Luminor. But I like Jermaine and Luminor too. I like both guys. I'm not saying that one should definitely start over the other because I'm not going to say that. But I will say, obviously, from a certain perspective, when you draft a guy, you want to see that guy succeed. Otherwise, why'd you draft him in the first place? It's kind of common sense. No, I don't want Thayer. If you draft like Thayer Munford, no, I don't want him to play because he's a son. Look, the same thing happened with Trent Brown when the San Francisco 49ers drafted him. And Von Miller called him one of the better right tackles. So I like Thayer Munford too. V says, this content is great. All you need is clickbait to reel them in. I don't do clickbait. I never was one to do clickbait. That's one thing that you guys know about me. I keep it 100. If there's something that I have to talk about, I will talk about it. If there's nothing to talk about it, I'm not going to fill the headline just to talk about it. Now I'm not throwing shade at anyone. I know other people do that. Hey, you got to make your money. Got to make your money, man. I am not hating. That's just the nature of the beast and the nature of the game. That's just not how I do business. Because again, I value your time. I hope the DOB values my time. So when I go on and do a live stream, Again, I'm doing this off the top of my head. There's a lot of legwork that goes into it when watching game film. But again, we can talk about any team you want right now, literally, because I ran the grades on these teams. Now I have to continue into week 6 as we go on and get the coaches film. But at the end of the day, look, I'm telling you right now, the Houston Texans, and we're going to talk about this later on in the week in the live streams, they should not be a team that you should downplay and say, oh, we should blow this team out by 40 points. That's not how this game works, my guys. I'm telling you right now, Houston Texans are very disciplined. Their defense is one of the best in terms of red zone efficiency, if I'm not mistaken. And then when you look at that dynamics of who they have guys like Derek Stingley Jr., right? A guy who was really inconsistent at LSU, covered him at LSU when I worked for Hype Mike, and covered him dating back to his true freshman season. He's a little bit inconsistent. I mean, the game film doesn't lie. But at the end of the day, you see a all-pro potential cornerback, right? Boundary cornerback. So you're banking on the guy's potential. That's what GM Nick Caserio did. And so when you get a guy like Derek Stingley, you have guys like Jalen Petrie, Jonathan Greener, who I just mentioned. There's guys on that defense that can really get after it. And so even though their record is not as strong as, let's say, a team that's 5-1 or 5-0 or 6-0, like the Philadelphia Eagles, they're a team that, you can't sleep on, because then you look on the offense side of the football and who they have, right? They have a guy by the name of Nico Collins, and Nico Collins gave who a problem? Well, in my grading system, he totally abused J.C. Jackson, and J.C. Jackson to me lost a step, and he may be playing injured. I don't know what the case is with J.C. Jackson, but J.C. Jackson is not the same player in my grading system. He's graded very poorly. We all saw last night how he just gets beat, and so he looks like he has lost a step. And so when you look at guys and teams and like the Houston Texans, who may not have household names outside of Brandon Cooks as a skill player, of course they have rookie Damian Pierce, but outside of those two guys, can you really name another guy? I can, Nico Collins. And so Nico Collins is a real deep threat. He's a real problem. And, coming out of Michigan, he's a real player that can really stretch the field vertically between the 20s. So he's going to be a guy that you have to key on, because at any given down, he can turn a 3rd and 16 into a house call. So again, you have to really look for that and be mindful that Nico Collins, wherever he is on the football field, that, hey, we know we have Brandon Cooks to deal with, but you also have to you might have to play a two split safety look and disguise your pre-snap from cover 1 to a cover 3, from a cover 2 to a cover 4. Now you wouldn't play quarters coverage, but maybe a cover 2, Tampa cover 2, right? To take away down the seams. And you really have to be mindful of that. So again, don't sleep on this Houston Texans team, because they're scary, just like the Atlanta Falcons. People were down in the Atlanta Falcons. I was like, man, the Atlanta Falcons are pretty damn good. Oh, really? Who they have? When you really talk about who teams have, yes, football is a game of matchups, but it's all about scheming things up too. Like Kyle Shanahan, he doesn't have the best offensive line, but he can scheme things up to hide his offensive line's deficiencies. Same thing with Sean McVay. He doesn't have an offensive line, but I take that back, because they're kind of struggling. But you guys get the point. Not throwing shit at the LA Rams. They're just not doing it this year. Matthew Stafford not doing it this year. Daniel Kim says, hit them likes and subscribe to the Beast. Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel Kim. Appreciate it. He's one of my moderators. Thank you so much for doing that. Kevin Lurker says, Abram has dog skills that cannot be taught. Wow. Kevin Lurker with the heat. All right. So Daniel Kim says, we just need to be on our X's and O's and execute precision and be relentless. My guy Dennis says, you definitely know what you're talking about, Beast. You called that Steelers game. Hey, man, I'm just keeping it 100. Look, all I know is this, how do I say this? You have to watch a lot of film, countless hours of film, and it is time consuming. It is stressful sometimes, and it is tedious at times. Who wants to sit down and put yourself on timeout to watch film? I do, because I love doing it. I don't even know how much time goes by, to be honest with you, because I'll start as soon as I get home from the gym. Actually, I'll be at the gym. I'll be doing cardio, because I do cardio for an hour and a half, hour and 15, hour and a half, depending on where I am in prep. And I'll be watching coaches film, and literally you can tell people are notice, I'm not watching the broadcast view, and they're you can kind of see them look over, what is this guy doing for an hour and a half? I usually lose track of time. I'm having so much fun. Oh man, that was a good play. I had that happen. Let's go back. Oh, well, look at the down and distance and that. And let's compare what they did on that play 2 weeks before that. They did this on this play against the same cover shell, but they just tried to switch up the rules of engagement. So they kind of used the reverse psychology against them and used the leverage against them on this play because they thought they were doing this and then they rolled back doing the other way. There's a lot of different things. I'm just saying, it's so fun. It's so fun, but you can pick up little tendencies too. Body language is another thing, right? You see coaches do this on the sideline, right? Some coaches do this. And what does that mean? That means it's a tackle and stunt from the defensive line. Or you see some off-ball linebackers go like this, bunch formation. What does that mean? That means it trips formation to the left or to the right. And so you're telling that cornerback to play off zone coverage because you don't want to get hit on that rub route, leaving a free release for that wide receiver who's not on the line of scrimmage. Or you can see players doing this. And what does that mean? I'm just saying, I'm not going to name the team. I'm just saying, you can pick up little things. If I see it, you damn know the personnel people see it. So it's not like a secret. Daniel, it's not a secret. It's like common sense. It's like game of poker. You know if someone has a strong hand or a weak hand more times than not. So then if you want to try to test the sharks, you use reverse psychology. So if you think you have a strong hand and they think you're a fish, right, and you really have a weak hand, I'm going to lay back. Say, hey, I have a strong hand, but I really have a weak hand. I only have pocket deuces. And I know you have ace queen. Pre-flop. Odds of you winning are higher. All right. So Daniel Kim says, salute. D Menace is legit. D Menace just got back from El Salvador. Follows me on Instagram. You can follow me on all social media outlets, by the way, not just YouTube, not just Facebook, not just Twitter. I'm on Instagram too for fitness gains as well. So follow me there. I've been known to do that. And again, Dark Side of BEASTwriter, as you see the logo right here in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you see that barbell, you see the silver and black logo, the DOB, the 6-point star, the Hawaiian hibiscus flower. It all incorporates what the DOB is about, and that's the home of the good vibes only. Good vibes only. And we have fans from every fan base. Why? Because I run grades, and so people want to know because they play fantasy football. And by the way, you guys, all you guys be winning. Oh, thanks. Sending me DMs. Some of you guys have been sending me super chats, so I appreciate it. Or actually super thanks, I should say, because after the video concludes, you're like, oh, thanks for the input. I actually did good in my fantasy team this week, and I picked up this player instead of that player, and you told me to bench this player instead of this player, and I didn't want to do it because based on the projected points, but you were right. Not right all the time, though. Just saying it. But more times than not. Daniel Kim, would you ever do a film breakdowns on the live for us to get a glimpse into the mind of the beast? That is a great question. Yes, I will do that once I launch channel memberships. I am going to do that through YouTube. I'm going to launch channel memberships for you guys to subscribe to the channel, and that way I can go ahead and do that. I will say this, and I will be 100% transparent with you guys. I'm not going to show you everything, obviously, because one, it takes up a lot of my time, and the time dedicated to do that is just too much bandwidth for me in a given day based on my current schedule. But I will show you a glimpse of a certain play. Like, let's say there's a play breakdown. For instance, the 4th and 1 call that I talked to Coach McDaniels about, and I talked about, I was like, hey, were you surprised that Coach Spags ran a cover 0? It wasn't even a cover 1. There was no single high safety. It was a cover 0. And you left Davante Adams one-on-one open so he can stretch the middle of the field vertically to where Derek Carr could just lob it up, and he can literally underthrow the receiver, and Davante Adams would still come down with the football because he had a half a step on that boundary cornerback. He's like, no, that's what Coach Spags does. And the calls just kind of mirrored each other, kind of matched up. And again, anytime you go 4th and 1, you throw a deep ball, you're taking your chances because how many times do you do that? Well, shoot, if it was me and I had Davante Adams on my team, I'd say I'd do it 100 out of 100 times because I would take those chances. And at the end of the day, what are you doing? You're not playing to lose. You're playing to win the game. And if I have Davante Adams match up one, I don't care if it's Pat Surtain. I don't care. I don't care if it's Sauce Gardner, who's been playing at a Pro Bowl level. I don't care. And of course, people talk about Sauce Gardner, but let me tell you something. DJ Reed is also a good player. Covered him when he was with the San Francisco 49ers. Don't sleep on DJ Reed. DJ Reed also was on the Seattle Seahawks. So again, what are you guys looking for? That cover 3 shell. Which brings me to the question. The Jets do not sleep on GM Joe Douglas possibly going after Johnathan Abram. Why? Because they have Jordan Whitehead there, who, again, he's under contract next year. I ran the numbers, but he has a lot of cap savings if he can kind of clear the books. So a lower dead money cap hit in 2023, you can kind of get him off the books. Maybe you get a guy like Johnathan Abram who has an expiring contract and sign him to a long-term deal as opposed to a guy like Jordan Whitehead. But Jordan Whitehead, obviously the team's doing well. So again, anytime you bring in a new player like that and kind of make that executive decision, you're kind of putting your defense in the bind, especially the secondary, because at the end of the day, you're playing extremely well. You want to break that team chemistry because you're 4-2. But hey, the Raiders got rid of Tyree Gillespie earlier, 4th round pick, 2021. Could they go out and trade Jonathan? I mean, I could see it happening. Why not? Why not? Or a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, GM Howie Roseman, who we just talked about. Why not? You saw him struck a deal for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson earlier in the year, right? From the New Orleans Saints. Dennis Allen says, yeah, okay. Mickey Loomis says, all right, take Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I was like, man, you're letting go of a top SEC Florida guy, man. Like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a beast. Like he is like what Nate Hobbs, for you Raiders fans, basically what Chauncey Gardner does is basically what Nate Hobbs does with Coach Ram. All right. He's an extra blitzer, can be an extra run box defender, can also cover in space, right? Playing in the slot. So again, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Mike Hilton, K'Wan Williams, guys like these, they all play the same type of way. And that's kind of the mold of the new slot cornerback. Long gone are the days of the Ray Mickens who would line up in the slot and just be a pure cover guy, or the Jason Websters, right? Who was a boundary cornerback, but then later on in the years can play inside the slot. So you need that slot cornerback who can really double down and do both, right? And so why you do that? Well, one, you keep the defense honest because their pass protection assignments now, rules of engagement change, right? Because you have to be mindful of not just the Mike linebacker calling out the Mike, but you have to be mindful of the blitz pickup, right? Screaming off the edge. And so again, you mirror that with game, right? What am I talking about? 2-man game, tackle and stunts, twists, all these things on the interior. And then you can kind of do wraparounds. We talked about wraparounds. So there's a lot of different schemes that you can do and tactics to kind of clear out space and generate a pass rush. But at the end of the day, it comes down to understanding protection calls, understanding how to be fundamentally sound at the point of attack, and obviously not losing leverage. It comes down to the leverage game. All right, but yes, I would do that. Castro Raider says, since Akers is in the doghouse, that's a damn good idea, Daniel. Yeah, you guys would love the game film breakdowns for sure. It's funny because I was working with a big-time producing company on game film breakdowns. They actually reached out to me to kind of test out their beta version. They're like, Beast, we know you do game film breakdowns. This is what we have. This is what we utilize. And so it's funny because a lot of the software nowadays, it's kind of like plug and play. So it's really simple. The hard thing about it is like, it's not as easy as plug and play on my end because they have a broader range of equipment. Whereas me, I just have a few, 2 or 3 things here. So the bandwidth of doing that is a little bit more time, but I can do that. I'm one of those perfectionists. So like when I do break down the play, I like to cover every single angle. So when the comments start dropping, I will already have covered that question before you even ask that question, if that makes sense. So again, like for instance, a cover 3 shell, right? Like let's say it's a cover 3 shell, 3 deep, 4 underneath defenders. Okay, cool story, right? And so, and let's say it's third, I don't know, usually a cover 1 would be a run defense, but let's say it's 3rd and 6, right? 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4, somewhere along those lines, right? So you're taking away the underneath stuff and not getting beat deep downfield because you're playing the safety and the 2 boundary cornerbacks covering their deep thirds or however you want to see fit. Well, there's different rules of engagement on a cover 3. Not all cover 3s are created equal, right? And so you have to know the tendencies of each NFL team, right? So the Chargers do things different from the Rams. The Rams do things different from the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos do things different from, let's say, the Philadelphia Eagles, right? And so, or the Dallas Cowboys, you can kind of mirror match, right? So there could be rules of engagement where, yeah, it looks like a cover 3, but there's man concepts underneath, right? And so now you're talking about a cover, potentially even a cover 7 scheme, right? So it's kind of like, if I'm going to break it down, I'm going to break it down, but odds are it'll probably be like simplistic. So you guys can have a broader understanding of exactly what I'm seeing from my perspective. But at the end of the day, you guys are gaining perspective too. And then you can formulate your own analysis as well. So you can be like, oh man, that's pretty cool, but you didn't catch this. And so I'll be like, oh man, that's a great point. I didn't catch that. So I'm learning just as much as you are every single day. And so I'm thankful and blessed to have learned the grading system over the years by creating my own algorithm, but then also the insight of former players, coaches, scouts, and execs. So again, it's one of those things I hold close to my heart, and it's something that I like to utilize to formulate my analysis, because again, whether or not it's a perfect bulletproof game grading system, it's not. But at least I have a broad knowledge of exactly what I'm talking about. So when I do my live stream, I'd be like, no, man, I actually graded the snap. The burden of proof falls on you to prove me wrong. I say that Divine Diablo is playing really well last 2 games in pass coverage. You say he's not? Okay, well, I graded the snap. Which snaps wasn't he playing well in? Because I got the grades. And so then they'll be like, oh, well, I don't need that. It's like, nah, man, you actually do need that, because you can't just watch the broadcast view and get a clear picture of exactly the assignments in coverage, because how do you know what the cover shells are? Same thing with run fit integrity. All right, Daniel Kim says, and same thing on the offensive side of the football. Daniel Kim says, based on your breakdown this week, what are some areas on the field that the Raiders can attack after establishing the run? Well, it all starts with the running game. But I would like to see, I know this sounds crazy, I would like to see Derek Carr attacking Derek Stingley Jr. I want to see that. I know he's a rookie, but again, when I watched him at LSU, when I watch him, then there's times where he kind of bites on play action pass. Now, watch them clean that up, because again, what coaches like to do is they like to look and focus on their weaknesses, because they know the same film that they're seeing from their own players, opposing teams are seeing the same thing. So exactly what you want to do is kind of hide that deficiency. But okay, so they're probably going to do this because this is what we got beat here. Now let's go ahead. And again, we talked about the reverse psychology. Now let's kind of roll coverage this way. So now when they think it's a cover 1, we're going to roll into a cover 3 cloud, or we can roll that box safety and do a cover 3 buzz, right? We can roll the cover 3 buzz where we have the box, the boundary cornerback playing up, and then we're rolling a defensive back or maybe a curl flat defender playing the deep half or whatever, deep third, whatever the case may be. So again, different rules of engagement vary from week to week, depending on the defensive coordinator. And that's why you like Coach Spags. That's why you like guys who kind of mix things up on the back end, like Coach Graham, right? Coach Graham does a really good job at that, disguising his cover shells, because it's not just as simple as rolling a safety back and rolling a safety high. There's a lot of different things that you can do. You can put the boundary cornerback and have him playing the middle of the field defender, and then rolling that strong safety or that free safety and have him playing that deep third on the boundary from the numbers to the boundary. And so again, there's a lot of different things you can do there. So I like defensive coordinators that keep offenses on their toes, especially on the back end, because that's where cover shells and coverage sacks can come into play. Anti-Search says Anthony Averett practice this week. We haven't seen anyone practice this week. The first glimpse of practice will be tomorrow. So again, media portion of practice will be tomorrow. I will be there and I will let you guys know. I will shoot a video of Anthony Averett practice, or I should say stretching, because all we get in the media is a stretching portion of practice, and then also maybe some individual work. But outside of that, that's pretty much it. So I'll get as much footage as I can as the media allows, and I will try to get Anthony Averett there and see, maybe he's in a blue or red non-contact jersey. Maybe he isn't. We're going to have to find out. But again, he's cleared to practice. Whether or not he's practicing, we will find out. I'm big on Averett too. By the way, I'm a huge Roll Tide Roll fan. I think he's awesome. Two Red Ring says, should I believe that Zeus is ready to take over for Jacobs? I don't think so. I don't think you should believe that, because what sample size do we have to pull from that he can convert? I'm not saying he can convert. I take that back. Dominant Zeus White, who I asked him to label his game in one word, he calls it dominant. I think Zeus White can be a Pro Bowl player. I think he will be a Pro Bowl player. However, when you really look at it for what it is, life without Josh Jacobs is a very scary thing. You remove Josh Jacobs from the picture. You don't sign him. You let him go off to, let's say, a running back needy team like the Washington Commanders. I know that sounds crazy. You probably wouldn't go there. You probably go to a team like the Denver Broncos or something. Stick within the AFC West and then stick it to the freaking Raiders, right? I'm joking, but kind of not joking. I mean, think about it. If you have a chip on your shoulder, which a lot of these players do, I mean, Robinson talked about it. Obviously, I talked about it. A lot of these players have chips on their shoulders, maybe be their draft status, maybe be a lot of teams passed on them, maybe former teams that they play twice a year, which is why they stick within the division because they want to stick it to their former team. You cannot say that Josh Jacobs I wouldn't say he would do it. That's not like, yeah, I want to do that, but I can see it happening. I mean, just the competitive drive of saying, hey, look, it's your loss, not mine. And I'm going to prove it to you twice a year every time we play. Look at Tom Brady, right? He has a huge chip on his shoulder, even though he's the greatest of all time. Still has a chip on his shoulder. Oh, the Niners should have drafted me. I wanted to go to San Francisco. I think every player, whether you play at a professional level, high school, college, doesn't matter. If you have that competitive drive to prove people wrong, that comes from within. That's like the fire that burns within you. That's like a motivational factor, right? And I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but I'm just saying, especially for me when I played, hell yeah. Like if someone wanted to single me up, I saw that as disrespect. I'm like, you're going to single me up? Okay, cool. It's your loss. Like I'm going to just blow right by you, bro. And I did. And so the next time around, they're like, oh, maybe we should provide help over the top. Maybe we need to do that. Yeah, maybe you should. Don't estimate the size of the dog in the fight. All right. Daniel Kim says, on a different live, the stat was brought up that we've given up a huge percent of catches in the middle of our D. Why is that, and how do we address this issue? It's funny because this was brought up also on Twitter, and I will say this. Coach Graham likes to run a cover 2, so whoever put that video up, I don't know who did it. I'm not going to call you out on it because I don't know who did it, and even if I did, I wouldn't call you out anyways. This is just my perspective. Look, the Tampa 2, if you guys know what a Tampa 2 cover 2 defense is, that, and I talked to it with my man Eric Allen. You guys know who Eric Allen is. We talked about this, the Tampa cover 2. Basically, you're pulling that curl hook defender. Well, the middle, I guess you call it the MOF, the middle of the field defender who's basically taking away the seams. He's supposed to drop back deep, right? And so I pointed this out even in the preseason, even before I talked to Eric Allen about this. You saw it in the preseason with Luke Masterson. You saw him kind of running deep, right? 10 to 12 yards back. And that's the cover 2. That's the Tampa cover 2. It's not a straight cover 2 defense. It's a Tampa cover 2. So you're going to give up a lot of that middle of the field stuff because you don't want to get beat deep. You want to cover your leverage in a way where you're not getting beat deep. And so that's why all this middle of the field stuff comes into play, because again, that you're pulling away that seam defender and pulling him back 10 to 12 yards back instead of 6 to 8. And so when you do that, obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff underneath. That's going to be a lot of real estate for offensive coordinators to work and operate from. So again, it's that Tampa cover 2. And that's the reason why you're seeing a lot of these pass plays, I guess you would say, being thrown underneath and in that middle of the field area. Daniel Kim says, do we resign JJ long-term for a running back? Is like 2 to 3 years. I definitely don't want an Ezekiel Elliott. Man, Ezekiel Elliott, I would not want Ezekiel Elliott on my team. I think that guy's overrated, bro. Like, I think Ezekiel Elliott is overrated. That's just my opinion. He's not very explosive. He had like, one or two good years, or a few good years, but man, I don't know. I like Tony Pollard better than I like Ezekiel Elliott. But getting back to it, do we resign JJ? I think you should resign JJ. I think GM Dave Ziegler should resign JJ. Now, whether that's going to happen, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen for a lot of different reasons. One, that's not the Raider way. That's not the Patriot way. And that's not, quote unquote, the winning way in terms of building teams the way that they're supposed to be built. Now, again, you look at the dynamics of around the NFL. You look at guys like Breece Hall, right? Breece Hall, guy from the New York Jets. People are comparing this guy to the next Le'Veon Bell, for crying out loud. And it's only through the first 6 weeks of the season. Now, I do like Breece Hall. I do. But let's pump the brakes on the LVB talk. And there's other guys around the league, right? Other rookies around the league, like Kenneth Walker from the Seattle Seahawks. So you can get guys later on in the draft, even though it's not a top-heavy running back draft class, and still find talent for the foreseeable future. Because why? Because running backs can always be churning. And again, the way the NFL is set up, it's for you guys, you fantasy football players, to benefit from it because it's a pass-happy NFL. That's why you see all these stupid roughing the passer penalties on quarterbacks, which is ridiculous. Apologies to Grady Jarrett. Apologies to even Chris Jones. Apologies to all these freaking pass rushers who get blindsided by the refs' stupid calls. I'm calling it stupid because it is stupid calls. Like, they're dumb calls. But again, we have to protect the quarterback, which is why I'm a firm believer in why NFL GMs are trending toward the running backs not being as valued as maybe a wide receiver or maybe a tight end because it's a pass-happy league. A lot of these teams now, especially, and there's so much speed on defense. The game has evolved so much from the days of the early 90s. Early 90s, it was definitely smash mouth, pound and ground running game, right? And then you open up the passing game based on how you see fit, whether you run the West Coast offense, whether you run the Air Coryell offense, whether you want whatever the offense you want to run. But now with the RPOs coming into play, there's a lot of zone read options. I shouldn't say zone reads. Zone reads come into play. Zone read also would be more college. But then you also remember you saw the Wildcat with Ronnie Brown. So it's just like a copycat league. And we're going to see that as each year progresses. We're going to see it. But then again, the defenses are catching up. Why? Because there's so much speed on the defense side of the football. When you look at a traditional defensive end or a tweener, as we like to call them back when I was growing up, you look at tweeners like, and we now call them edge defenders, but you look at tweeners back in the day and you take a guy, for instance, like Charles Haley. Is he a 4-3 defensive end or is he a 3-4 outside linebacker? Well, we know one thing, he's a bigger defensive end, but is he built like a Micah Parsons, who is by today's definition, a tweener, an edge defender? No way. The athleticism factor and everything in between, give me Micah Parsons any day of the week over Charles Haley. And so I think that's what the NFL is trending. And that's why the scoring is down, is because the defenses are catching up to the offense. And I think it's definitely, I'm a defensive guy. I'm just going to go on record and say it. I'm a defensive guy. So I like these low scoring games. I liked last night's game, low scoring game. Although I take that back. I want to see a little bit more scoring than that. That was kind of pathetic. But with that being said, these defenses are so good now because the speed of the game has changed so much. And so I love it. I love it. I love the way defensive coordinators are kind of scheming their players up, putting their players, again, we call it all this, sounds cliche, but in the best position to make plays. Look, you wouldn't put Micah Parsons, even though he's listed as an outside linebacker, and have him in coverage on third down. You want him rushing the passer because that's what he does best. And that's where he's going to create havoc and possibly create turnovers and opportunities for others. Maybe a forced fumble, maybe a forced ball down the field in double coverage. Maybe that quarterback doesn't see that underneath defender pulling away from his assignment and kind of jumping that route underneath. So there's a lot of different things that you can do on the back, on the front end, as opposed to the second level and then on the back end. So again, that's that when it comes to a guy like Josh Jacobs and should they resign him, I would like to see him resign because at the end of the day, I'm a traditional guy too. Aside from being a defensive guy, I think you have to open up the rushing attack first, and then that opens up the passing game. Because again, when you try to win deep in a deep playoff run, it always comes down to what? Winning down in the trenches. So you have to be able to run the football, win the time of possession, obviously keep opposing offenses off the football field, limiting your turnovers, being fundamentally sound in all three phases. Because let's be honest, the often overlooked aspect, which the game usually comes down to, if you're going to win the Super Bowl, comes down to special teams and missed field goals or made field goals or flipping the field with a great punter, not punting the ball for a touchback, but punting and pinning the team's opposing 10-yard line, right? So doing these things, that's going to keep you in the game. And so, again, when you do that, I think that's the best way of building your team. And so when you look at a guy like Josh Jacobs, it's hard to imagine life without Josh Jacobs. It really is. I would like to see him re-signed. Ultimately, I hope he gets re-signed. But if I was a betting man, I don't see him getting re-signed, if that makes sense. Now, watch me be wrong. Anti-Surge, I know this has nothing to do with the Raiders, but how many days of the week do you work out and how long a day? Well, it's all good if it's not the Raiders because, again, this is Dark Side BEASTwriter. It's football and fitness. I work out every single day. And depending on what my coaches want, because if you guys don't know, I compete in the NPC, which is the National Physique Committee, IFBB, International Fitness Bodybuilder Committee, going for my pro card, and Team Ventura. Omar Ventura, if you guys know who Omar Ventura is. You guys, all those Olympias. I'm not an Olympia, obviously. Maybe one day. I just want to be a pro. Just get my pro card. But anyways, as part of Team EVOGEN. So it's all in the link description box below, all my supplements. So if you guys, people are asking about my supplements that I take, I'm an EVOGEN athlete. It's in the description box of every YouTube live stream and every video that I post. So tomorrow on the player coach interviews, just scroll down, all my social media is there and all my EVOGEN nutrition supplements are there. And then if you use my discount code EvoBEAST, you guys will get discounts on all my supplements that I take. But going back to your question, yeah, I work out every single day. And even if it's what we call an active rest day, I still work out. Active rest day means cardio and abs. That's an active rest day. And so sometimes I work out twice a day. So I do fasted cardio in the morning and then get my gains in after I'm done with work at Raiders HQ. Or I get my strength training done before Raiders HQ, and then go back and do my cardio after I eat and get a good meal in. But depending on what I eat, and depending on what my coaches want, and my prep is going to determine exactly what my workouts are for that specific day. So a lot of things go into it. It's a science. Dennis says, do you think if Zeus doesn't get a lot of playtime this season? But you know what, Anti-Surge, to be honest with you, I will post my workout videos. I have done so. So after this live stream concludes, if you just want to type in, I don't know, I think there's some workout videos. There's actually a playlist of workout videos. I think I called it Workout Wednesdays, even though I don't work out on every Wednesday because I work out every day. Go check those out, and there's some workout videos for all of you guys to enjoy. I'll be posting more. I was supposed to do one today, actually, at EOS off St. Rose Parkway, but I didn't have anyone to film me, and I don't want to be that douchebag that went over and be like, hey, can you film me, bro? And the guy's like, dude, I don't even know you, bro. So I'm not that dude. All right, Daniel Kim says, I will post more videos, I promise. I know a lot of you guys are asking. Daniel Kim says, I think Zeus isn't playing much because his blocking abilities are lacking and he misses the read and react assignments. Very true, Daniel Kim. You are spot on. You are spot on. I know from a business perspective, it would be smart to keep Zeus instead of JJ, but if they know he is actually a good replacement, why let JJ go? Exactly. That's exactly. I'm with you. I'm with you, Dennis. I am with you 110%. I think they should re-sign Josh Jacobs. I'm big Josh Jacobs fan. And so, again, when you look at it and you put two and two together, and then you say, hey, Josh Jacobs is the truth. Life without Josh Jacobs is a scary, scary thing. That's all I got to say about that. I like Josh Jacobs. I think everybody loves Josh Jacobs. If you don't love Josh Jacobs, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. Anyways, all right, I think I'm going to wrap up this live stream. We covered every angle there is to cover here in the BEASTwriter live stream. I hope you guys liked what I had to say. I know we covered a lot of different things, but I just wanted to clear your thoughts and clear some things in regards to things that we talked about in terms of Johnathan Abram being traded. Ferrell reported on the trading block as well. So again, a lot of different things that you guys wanted answered. Hopefully I answered all those questions for you in more ways than one. And again, we can talk about different perspectives on exactly which teams are going to go after some of these players, like a Christian McCaffrey. But at the end of the day, it's all fun and games because we never really know. Like, we don't know. I don't know what's going to happen until it really happens. Let's be honest about this. Every team that comes into play when it comes to Christian McCaffrey is going to be a potential suitor. Well, I don't care about potential. I want results. So who is it going to be? No one knows for sure except for the two teams that want to tango. So again, it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. But at the end of the day, I think Christian McCaffrey will get traded. If I had to take a guess, I think Christian McCaffrey is going to get traded. Now, whether that's going to be to the Los Angeles Rams because they like going top heavy, because we all know that Allen Robinson hasn't been getting the targets. I don't know how this is going to go, but all I know is Christian McCaffrey will likely get traded. I can see the Chiefs. I can definitely see the Bills, but definitely could see the Chiefs. Can definitely see a team like the I don't know. You can go to a lowly team like the Washington Commanders if they want to do them dirty. Beyond the dysfunction there. Look, I don't know if you would want to call out your quarterback, Carson Wentz. Did you guys hear the report that Ron Rivera? Thank you so much, Aloha Dennis, for the super chat and super sticker. I appreciate it. He says, Raiders. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the love. Really means a lot. Dennis has been with me since day one. How was your trip, though? Because I know you went to El Salvador. You hit me up in my DM on Instagram. And so I want to know how that went. Because I know you were on vacation and you were still catching my live streams. I was impressed. But getting back to Christian McCaffrey, where do you guys see this guy going? I mean, Christian McCaffrey, people are talking about the Niners, but they really don't have a high round draft pick, right? That went to the Trey Lance sweepstakes. So again, you look at teams who are actually potential suitors, and a lot of these teams don't even have high round draft picks. So what exactly are we going off of? And you look around the league and you look at a team like maybe the Denver Broncos. maybe a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe a team like the Buffalo Bills. I mean, like I said, Washington Commanders could be one of them. But it's going to be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. I know this sounds crazy because I like Miles Sanders. But if Howie Roseman somehow got Christian McCaffrey on the Philadelphia Eagles, just think of that backfield. Now, I love Miles Sanders. He played along Saquon Barkley over at Penn State. Love both those guys. But then again, man, you get a guy like Christian McCaffrey. I know it's probably not going to happen because they don't need. Well, I shouldn't say they don't need Christian McCaffrey. Everybody can use a Christian McCaffrey, but yeah, it's going to get interesting. It's going to get interesting in a hurry, and I just can't wait to see how this one plays out. But yeah, thank you so much, Dennis, for the super chat, super sticker. I appreciate the love as always, man. Thank you. It means a lot. And really these live streams mean a lot. I put a lot of time and effort into them. I hope you guys enjoy them because I enjoy talking to you guys. Daniel Kim says, smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you so much, Daniel Kim, who's also another one of my moderators. Dennis says, I ate a lot of pupusas. Hey, those pupusas, I tell you what, those pupusas, they're good. Like, they're sneaky good. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like melts in your mouth. Those pupusas are good. I know what you're talking about, bro, and I feel your pain. And it's for the gains. That's what we always say. It's for the gains. That's good. That's great. Hopefully you ate enough for the both of us. Anti-Sir says, good night, brother. Love the stream. Keep grinding. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And again, it means a lot for you guys hopping on this live stream and just talking football. And we could talk about anything. It's all about good vibes only here in the BEASTwriter family. And so as long as everyone's respectful and treats everyone with respect, that's all you can ask for. And, you know, if you want to troll or hate, you guys can do that on another live stream or another person's channel, because that's not what we're about here. And so that's what I try to promote, is just good vibes only. And really that's what the dark side of BEASTwriter is all about. So when you're part of the BEASTwriter family, what does that mean? When you're part of the DOB family, what does that mean? Well, if you subscribe to my channel, and again, thank you Pepe Le Biden, I appreciate it. He says, I appreciate the quality of work, JJ, all day. Thank you so much for the super chat and super chicker, man. I really appreciate it. But getting back to it, man, like I said, it's all about good vibes only here in the dark side of BEASTwriter. You're going to get a different vibe here, along with the good vibes only here, because we have fan bases from all 32 NFL teams. If you guys don't know, I am coming from the San Francisco 49ers. I did cover the Pittsburgh Steelers for Sports Illustrated. I did cover the Arizona Cardinals over time. I did cover also then the Oakland Raiders. So I have all these fan bases, Carolina Panthers. Who else did it? Man, I covered like at least 12 teams. And so, gosh, dang, looking back, it's like, man, yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years now. Over 10 years. No, 10 years. 10 years now. Since 2012. Wow. I'm getting old. Your boy's getting old. Anyways, doing it for a very long time. So again, we're going to have a lot of different fan bases in here, and everybody's all good vibes only. Packers fans in here. And so, again, Chiefs fans, you guys name it. So, again, thank you so much for hopping on this live stream. Really means a lot. Thank you so much for the super chat and super sticker. People that buy it, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Josh Jacobs all day, man. Josh Jacobs all day. I'm also a huge fan of Zeus White. I'm Zeus White all day, too. So, Zeus White all day, Josh Jacobs all day. I am all for it. I like both those players a lot. I think, again, Zeus White just needs the opportunity. I think he's going to be a Pro player. Check the Beast receipts. I already put that out there. I think he's going to be a beast. A beast. But thank you so much. D Menace says, please stay with the nation, Beast. I'm not going anywhere, man. I love the Raider Nation. You guys have been showing nothing but love. I know the Niner fans. You know what's funny is the Niner fans, they know. Because let's be honest, when I started my fitness grind, for those who don't know, I compete in the bodybuilding industry. But, I would take pictures of selfies, with my shirt off and go, oh, you're a douchebag. No, man, I just get paid for it. I'm a content creator. I was a model. Well, technically I am a model still, but a fitness model. So of course I get paid for it. So like, I'm not just doing it for kicks and giggles, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, so am I going to put myself out there for that and deal with the trolls after, or do I just not 0 F's given and just go for it? And I say, 0 F's given. They're going to hate anyways. Not my problem. If they don't hate the player, hate the game, right? Not my problem. So that's what I've been doing. Luckily, all those Niner fans stayed with me. So no matter what team I covered after that, I knew they were going to stay with me, because if they're not intimidated or turned off by me taking selfies or posting workout videos, which who doesn't like to work out, like, and be inspired? I don't know. I'm inspired by a lot of people who work out all the time. That's what inspires me. Anyways, then they're going to fall off, and some did, but most didn't. And so that's why we have all these different fan bases in here today. And that's why it's all about the good vibes only. So here it's a different type of vibe. It's like you get majority of the fans are Niners and Raider fans, to be honest with you, but everyone's so cordial with each other and so nice. And you never get that anywhere else. You just don't have that. Because usually when you say, oh, you're a Raider fan, or you're not, oh, F the Niners, or, F the Raiders, and blah, blah. And it's like, dude, calm down. Calm down. Take a chill pill, as we would say back in the day. Take a chill pill. But no, I'm not going anywhere, man. I love the Raider Nation. You guys have been treating me nothing but good vibes only here. And again, like I said, I'm very, very honored to be in this situation. And I wouldn't be here without you guys. And that's why I run these giveaways. And that's why when you guys send me super chats, which you did, I'm going to, anything left over from when we allocate the funds, if I do go on a road trip, or if I don't go, I probably will go on a road trip, but at some point, but everything extra, if there is anything extra, will be funneled back into you guys. Cause again, you guys make what I do so special. And again, I think that's what makes my job. I don't even like calling it a job, because it's unfair to call it a job, because for me, every time I wake up every day, it's not a job. It's more like an opportunity and a blessing. And so I look at it as me living this blessing. I wouldn't be in this blessed situation without people like you who support me, who come on these live streams. And you guys are the ones that drive this YouTube live stream, right? So again, it's without you guys here, none of this would be possible, right? None of this would be possible. And that's what it's all about. So again, like I said, it's all about good vibes only here in the dark side of BEASTwriter. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. It does mean a lot. Does mean a lot. But yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and end this live stream. I hope you guys liked what we had to say here. Pibble Biden says, shout out to PG giving you props for the questions, Beast. Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah. Coach Graham, the first encounter or conversation, I should say, I had Coach Graham. I had a Freudian slip, and I talked about him using a 2-gas scheme as opposed to a 1-gas scheme. He's like, I never really said that. He's like, I'm on to you. And he said in a joking manner. I was like, oh man. Then he, from that, it's like a joke, and then running joke. And then from that point on, I was like, he probably, good vibes. Right. And so he went on in today, and he really liked my question. Because I want to know exactly how Divine Diablo is playing, because again, there's so much hate going on Divine Diablo, and I think it's unwarranted. I think it's unwarranted because it's not fair. When you run the grades and you actually watch the game film, Divine Diablo is playing extremely well over the last 2 games. Now, the first 3 games, I will be on the record, and I'll say this: he did struggle in pass coverage. Right? He does lead the team, giving up 3 passing touchdowns, but at the end of the day, he's still a beast. He's still a beast. The last 2 games, he's learning a new position. I said before the season began that he would lead the team in tackles, right? And so that's what you're seeing today. And so that's why I think every team needs a Divine Diablo, because Divine Diablo is so smart. And he talked about his leadership presence and talked about all these different aspects that he brings to the table other than what you see on the field. And I think that was a really important conversation to have during the interview process, because maybe that's something that people don't see, right? Maybe that's something that people don't see, and they really, really should. But no, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the love, appreciate the good vibes only. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up this live stream. It is October 18th. I hope you guys like this Pick 6 live stream. If you did, give it a thumbs up, drop your comments, and also subscribe in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. Also, do me a solid and share this video on all your social media outlets. That's how we're going to grow the DOB family. So please do so. If you have Raider fans, just share this video. That is free, and that would help me out a lot. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Have a good day and have a good night. That's it for tonight. BEASTwriter out.